Hi everybody. Thought I would give you a tour of the pedals and effects that I like to use in my videos so that you can refer to this if you have any questions about what's going on, what you're watching. So since I'm a saxophone player, you have to have some way to get your sound into the effects, and the best way really is to have a preamp. When I started using effects a long time ago, I think I connected a dynamic microphone like an SM57 directly into my DigiTech Whammy, and it actually worked, but I don't recommend that. It's not a very good way to go. I power all of the pedals with this power block. This is my power supply, and I run all of the power cables underneath the different pedals. I use this Radial Engineering Voco-Loco preamp. I really like this because it allows me to mute everything coming out of the preamp in case I get feedback, which happens when things aren't set properly. It also has an effects send and receive, and the ability to turn the effects on and off and then still have microphone power coming out when the effects are off. So I get my sound in through this XLR. I use an Audio-Technica Pro 35 clip-on microphone that connects to the XLR cable with this remote power module. This is my DigiTech Whammy. It splits my tone into two different sounds depending on the interval you choose. Or drops it an octave or 2 octaves. Raises it an octave or 2 octaves and allows me to pitch shift or move through different octaves through different intervals depending on the setting that I have it on. I have the DigiTech Whammy set to fifths, and it sounds like this. This is Meris Enzo. It's a multi-voice instrument synthesizer that I use to change my sound into interesting different modulation. It has a filter that I use for a wah effect. It has a ring modulator, which I really love for kind of a crunchy, dirtier sound. This is the Seymour Duncan Vapor Trail. It's an analog delay effect, and I generally keep it on and set kind of very quick so that it gets a little bit more thicker sound. We also have another Meris pedal, Meris Hedra, which is a 3-voice rhythmic pitch shifter. And this kind of provides the different chords that you hear underneath, the pads. Ambient sounds and different harmonies. It's a very powerful effect. I've aligned Line 6 DL4. I really don't use it very much for the delays at the moment. I'm using it mostly for its ability to loop samples. Right here we have the TC Electronic Hall of Fame 2, which is a reverb effect pedal that, again, I use mostly. I set it to a specific reverb I want to use, and then I leave it there. It has a flex switch that I can push to get a little bit more of the amplified reverb sound, or increased reverb sound, I guess you could say. Over here, this little black box is from Meris. It's the MIDI I/O, and it translates MIDI information from a standard MIDI cable to a 1/4-inch TRS cable that the pedals, both Meris pedals, can understand. This is important because each of the Meris pedals has 16 different presets that you can edit in software and customize to exactly the way you want. Then you can use a MIDI controller to select the different presets that you want to use, and I'll show you that in a minute. Now, to talk about the signal flow of the two effects chains. I mentioned I have two separate chains going on. Originally I thought about splitting the signal with an ABY pedal, but I found a different way to do it because I don't have an ABY pedal and didn't want to buy one right away. So I'll explain how I do that in a second. So the sound comes out of the send in the Voco-Loco preamp, and it goes directly into my DigiTech Whammy. From there it goes into the ENSO, and from the ENSO into the delay pedal, and then back into the receive. That's one effects chain that I use, and I use different combinations of the DigiTech Whammy and the ENSO to produce an effect that comes out of the Voco-Loco and the line output. There's a mix knob on the preamp that allows me to decide how much of a wet-dry mix I use in order to get that effects chain to the amplifier. I then take a dry signal direct from the DigiTech and send it into the Meris Hedra. From the Hedra I go into the line 6. From there I send it out through the reverb pedal, and it goes stereo out. This whole effects chain from the Hedra through the line 6 and the reverb pedal is all stereo. I like the sound of a ping pong delay, or a back and forth stereo delay that I get through this effects chain. Goes out separately to a different amplifier. So I have two outputs going to two separate amplifiers. It's a little bit more of a complex setup, but I like the multi-layered sounds I get from this. In a live setting, of course, we would go to two different amplifiers. In my studio here, I'm just taking two inputs into Ableton Live. One's a mono input and the other is a stereo left-right input. The FCB 1010 is the MIDI foot controller I prefer to use right now. I really like it because of its flexibility. It allows me to program a bunch of different things to send through at once. There's a lot of videos on this on YouTube. I recommend you check those out because they'll do a better job than I will of explaining them. But for my setup, I have both Meris pedals set to two different MIDI channels. The Enzo is set to channel 1, Hedra is set to channel 2. I should mention I use MIDI to control the harmony intervals of my whammy pedal as well, so that's set to channel 3. Sometimes my presets here are sending one program change to a specific pedal, and sometimes it's sending 3 different program change signals to 3 different pedals, so that I'm able to really customize the sound I want with one click at a time. The expression pedals are great as well. I've got one set to control the Hedra and one set to control the Enzo. So it goes out from the MIDI out of the FCB 1010 into the MIDI I/O, the little black box, and it then talks to the Enzo, the Hedra, and the whammy pedal all at the same time. You probably see me stepping over here, making program changes more so than on the individual pedals, and that's because I like to set a bunch of different pedals at once, give it kind of a layered effect. And I found that it was easier just for me to press one button over here, operate the 2 expression pedals close together rather than hop around all over the pedal board. If you want to see this stuff in action, watch some of my videos on playing with saxophone and effects, and I hope you enjoyed this video.